Welcome, welcome. It's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution podcast. I hope everybody's doing well out there. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you like the information that I'm sending out to you guys. I'm relatively new to podcasting, and I decided to start this podcast because I do see a degradation in society. I do see a dichotomy. I do see disassociation happening in our society. Disassociation. Um, yeah, things are, not to ever spread fear and doom and gloom on this channel, but things are getting real. Um, I have, how can I say, I have friends that they have pushed the red button. And when we talk about the red button on this channel, we're talking about that they've pushed the red button and they've basically ran out of money. And so that's going to be the theme, as Egon von Gress has said, that's going to be the theme for the next 10 years, possibly longer than that, where, countries defaulting, they push the red button, countries pushing the red button, individuals pushing the red button, sovereign nations pushing the red button, banks pushing the red button, corporations pushing the red button, where they're just running out of money. And these are definitely interesting and perilous times. And well, the nothingness, as they say, is eating up everything. It's eating up our world. And maybe more so to the exopolitical, you could say that the darkness is eating the light, but the light will always be here in this universe. But we're becoming refracted from the light of God. And again, I'm not here to preach or anything like that, and I'm not particularly religious. I am non-denominational, but I do believe in the true living God. But we are becoming refracted from the light, and the darkness is eating us alive. There's becoming more darkness than there is light on this planet. And maybe you can say throughout history that there's been times that have been worse. Of course, there have been times that are worse, and that I cannot necessarily understand myself. But as we move forward, trying to come up with solutions to these hard pressing issues that we have. And sometimes the solution is just to rely on yourself. Um, we find that as we go through the collapse of civilization and the collapse of the society, we will find that the family institution is breaking up. Uh, Love is not necessarily in the world anymore. You will find that in certain generations, for instance, the millennials, that they're less likely to get married. So we have the family institutions splitting apart. Millennials are less likely to get married, less likely to buy homes, for that matter. And it's just a degradation of society. And it's a nothingness, as they say, the nothingness. Have you ever seen that movie, The Never-Ending Story? They call it the nothingness. And we're going to try not to let the nothingness get to us. But maybe sometimes the only solution is to the problem is yourself, is to rely on yourself. That as we go through the breakdown, we're going to see families being torn apart for financial reasons. We're going to see people struggling with finances. We're going to see people less likely to date and marry because it's not cost effective to date and to be married anymore. Uh, it comes with a cost. Relationships come with a cost. So we're going to see how this, and I was saying in the last podcast that with click money, and not necessarily to bring that core group in, because in this podcast, we do talk about that core group of people that basically rule the world through central banks and through the government and through federal government and what have you, and particularly the G7 banks that are controlling everything. And I talked about in the last podcast how, you know, through the matrix, it is created because it's this core group of individuals that is imposing their form of reality. Of course, to some extent, we're all trying to impose, not all of us, but sometimes we all try to impose or transfer what we feel or what we believe onto other people. And that's not necessarily the way. I mean, why can't we all just get along, right? I mean, I know it sounds, it's probably much harder than it seems, but we may never ever, you know, get along while we're on this planet. And well, it's coming to the point now where we're all going to have to wake up. We're all going to have to as the collapse happens, um, we're all just going to wake up. And but like I was saying on the last podcast, with that we're in the matrix, and there is this matrix, and that it creates these kind of artificial relationships. And I don't know, please guys, like and subscribe. It's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast, and I'm just here today venting. Um, you know, Again, we have a lot of economists that come on, and I think a lot of these economists, they're upper middle class, and maybe they will be affected by the collapse themselves. But a lot of these economists, not to digress from my original idea or my original thought about that, those that it's sort of like a split as a disassociation relationships. But I wanted to focus on some of the economists as well. Some of these top economists out there, and I'm not going to name names, but some of them are just totally out of touch with reality, totally out of touch with the common man or woman is going through. And well, the middle class is not going to really start subscribing or feeling any kind of way, because yeah, the 401ks lost 20% in their IRAs and their 401ks, but they're not really going to start feeling it until they are hit 50%. But anyway, so these dichotomies and these disassociations, so the family being divided, friendships are being divided, people have no refuge. People can't rely on their families. They can't rely on anybody. They can't rely on their government. They can't rely on anybody. They have to rely on themselves. And for some people, that might be a very hard pill to swallow. And by nature, I'm a Scorpio. My sun sign is a Scorpio. Not that that has anything to do with anything, but I think that I'm very much a Scorpio. And I think Scorpios, we deal with these kind of freaky realities with all kind of weird stuff, like deal with death and dying, and deal with these harsh realities. And I'm not trying to influence anybody or to transfer my reality on it to anybody, but it seems as though we're all living this disassociation, this in this reality. And we are born here on this planet here, and everything came from an immaterial, and it congealed into a material, as you see here. That's why I have on the background this planet here, because we're trying to get a vintage point of view. Again, it's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast, and I'm going to try to share with you some news and views. Guys, give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Yeah, so sorry about that, guys. Yeah, again, it's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast, and we are seeking nirvana. We are seeking not necessarily an escapism, but um, an escape nonetheless. And maybe in the tribulation period, a lot of people will end up dying. However, when they die, they're going to cross over to something else. What that something else is, nobody really knows. I myself personally believe that there is a parallel dimension, that there are parallels, and that there is a stargate inside all of us. This realm is a very dense, low vibrational realm that we're in. Everything is consolidated, everything is congealed, everything is hedonistic, as if you will. Everything is material. We're in these gross material bodies, and perhaps when we die, we'll be in ethereal bodies, we'll be in astral bodies, angelic bodies. We'll not be in these bodies anymore. This life is very short. And well, again, it seems as though that the darkness is eating the light, and a lot of you guys out there may be experiencing this. And I kind of equate it to like a lot of these economists, these very smart, yet very, very smart economists. Again, I'm not an economist. I do have a background in real estate and aesthetics, and I've been studying about the federal government for at least 7 years, and it's taken me down this long path of self-awareness. But You have a lot of economists that come on the television, that come on TV, and they're completely out of touch with reality. They're completely out of touch with what the poor person, what the average person is going through. And you know, I think that it will become more real, the collapse, when it starts to hit your door, and it's already starting to hit my door personally. I have friends that have already hit the red button, friends that were working, quote unquote, good enough jobs, at least manager jobs. They were working manager jobs, and they still working their jobs, but they're working poor. And however, due to the rise, the cost of living, that all the prices are going up, everything is going up. They had to make hard decisions about whether or not they were going to stay in their home or whether they were going to become homeless. They didn't want to, so this particular person didn't want to go into debt. Guys, I hope you guys are following me. This is the Digital Revolution podcast. This is your boy Jay, and I'm just explaining the darkness that is the collapse, the satanic, Luciferian energy. And I'm not saying it's necessarily Satan, but it is an energy, a dark energy that is enveloping this world, because it's more so that some people that are Christian, they believe that the devil rules this world. But going back to my friend who pushed the red button, yeah, so he pushed the red button, and now he's homeless. And but it's not just him who's pushing the red button. There's plenty of people out there who are one paycheck away from pushing the red button, one paycheck away from being homeless, one paycheck away from just being insolvent, or just one job loss away. And guys, there is just a staggering number of job losses going on. And, with those job losses, we're going to see people co-opted into the government, co-opted into the socialized system. So the very system that is bankrupting them and collateralizing them, collateralizing their labor and their future earnings and future generations, earnings and purchasing power, the very system that is bankrupting them is co-opting them into that system. So they are dependent on the system. And well, I think very soon we're going to see that system collapse. And there's some people like Cliff High that say that sometime in June, possibly, that the federal government is going to go bankrupt, that the debt, well, yeah, there's $320 trillion worth of global debt out there. And there's $2 quadrillion of derivative debt, and that debt is going to be imploding. And once that debt implodes, it's going to be nearly impossible for the banks to extend credit. And as Bill Holter, and maybe we'll do a little segment on Bill Holter, as Bill Holter has explained and taught us, is that it takes about 10 lines of credit to get the groceries to the grocery store. And so once the debt implodes, banks will no longer be able to extend credit. So again, plenty of people are pushing the red button, and that's having far-reaching consequences that not everybody can necessarily understand, because you have certain people that are economists that are, hold on a second. I hope you guys can hear me. Got a little noise in the background. Hold on one second. Okay. So yeah, so you have certain economists, like these economists, they're making, I don't want to name names, but let's just throw some numbers out there. Some economists are saying, or some economists are making somewhere around the ballpark of $100,000 and up. They're very smart, and I'm not going to name names, but a lot of them are out of touch. A lot of them is just talk, 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 talk. They just talk, talk, talk. They talk numbers, they talk Fed speak, Fed speak, they talk all this, but all this nonsense. The market is nonsense. All these markets are being manipulated. So if you have your annuities or your 401k, your IRAs in these stock markets, it's all just smoke and mirrors. What are you cashing it out for? Worthless pieces of dollars. The only real money, by definition, by legal definition, is gold and silver, and that's from JP Morgan himself. He said that. Everything else is credit. And so I hope you guys are following me. I might have a little noise in the background, so guys, bear with me. Again, like and subscribe if you like this information. And we're just going to go into some news and views. Let me just check my screen here. But before we go into the news and views, yeah, so we're starting to see not only the morality of the United States and of the world collapsing, but we're starting to see individuals starting to collapse or at least disassociate. And as a part of that disassociation, they're becoming zombies. So, I'm not saying to completely not escape, because you need some escapism, right? But sometimes don't let what I want to say is don't let the darkness overcome you. And everybody falls short of the glory of God. And I'm not here to preach at all, because I am not perfect by any means, You guys know I have a potty mouth, and my potty mouth is gonna come out. But anyway, so let's get right to it. Hopefully I can share my screen with you guys. And we're at the close. This is April 4th, 2023. And yeah, so the S&P 500, it looked like the S&P 500 here, it fell below its Tenkan-sen, and it looked like there was a little bit of a retracement in the markets here. Maybe if we throw on a Fibonacci and see that uh, could go down some more, but again, I don't want to speculate. And oh yeah, actually, before I go into that, so a lot of you guys might be trying to warn your loved ones, try to tell your loved ones about what's happening, but they unfortunately are still in the matrix. They still have a bias, a more so a a bullish sentiment for the long-term views. But the long-term view, I cannot necessarily say that it's bullish or bearish, but long-term is looking like we're going to have a lot of volatility. The volatility is already here. But a lot of people are still stuck inside the matrix. Guys, we're all brainwashed more or less to a certain extent. We're all being brainwashed, and the technology for brainwashing is very pervasive. If you have a phone, they're all following us and tracking us on our phones, everything that we do, and say they're listening to us on our phones. It may not be a human, but it's definitely the algorithms are listening. And my last podcast, I was surprised that when I reviewed it, that they had taken out some of the information in there. They have blotted out some of the information on there that Martin Armstrong was saying, and so we're being heavily censored for certain topics that we cannot talk about, especially in relation to the proxy war with Ukraine and Russia. And as I've been saying before, the G7 nations, they want to overtake Russia due to whatever beliefs they have about the volatility of the future. But guys, you might try to warn your friends, warn your family. There's people that are waking up, but some people are just not going to wake up in time. And those will be the people that are going to be asking for help. Those are going to be the people knocking on your door, asking for food, for water, for money. Those are going to be the people that are going to run out of money. And so there's a difference between, yes, speculating, and then there's also a difference between being prepared. There's nothing wrong with being prepared. There's nothing wrong with having a little food stored away. There's nothing wrong with having a little cash outside of the system. There's nothing wrong with having a plan A and a plan B and possibly a getaway plan. Again, this is the Digital Revolution podcast. The revolution will not be televised. Guys, I hope you're following me here. Yeah, kind of a lot to cover here. And let me see. So yeah, the S&P 500 looks like it's retracing itself. A lot of investors were already stopped out of this market. The ones that have a little bit of a tighter stop losses, the ones that are kind of swing trading or a tight day trade, their stop losses, they already stopped out of here, and they already got out of these markets as soon as they came here. We're looking at the S&P 500 in the lower time frames, and then looking like its lagging indicator is almost touching the price. So we're seeing consolidation here. Gold look like it retraced itself. We hit $2,000 of gold. Oh, looks like it's still holding above there, and it's looking like we're getting strong support, or not necessarily strong support, but it looked like we're getting this price supported. We have a very wide up, a very erected Tinkinson, another pointing up, single span A. However, the single span B is pointing flat. So for the long term, we could see that it's going up, but it's sort of flat in the higher time frame. So gold is holding above its price, and it looked like it is way above its this 1900 price range. It was supported above that range. So this is looking very bullish for Gold, S&P 500, like it's retracing itself. Not really going to focus on gold too much. Okay, so we're going to get to RFK Jr. Very soon. RFK Jr. possibly going to be running for president, for the next candidate for the president. JP Morgan, guys, I thought this was very interesting. I don't hear this enough, guys. We talked about how these markets are rigged, how the gold market is rigged. Guys, look at here. JP Morgan Chase to pay a record 920 million to resolve US investigations into trading practices. Guys, these banks are heavily manipulating the market. The writing is on the wall here. This is a CNBC. Not that I subscribe to them, but obviously the writing is on the wall. JP Morgan Chase is set to pay a record 920 million to resolve probes for three federal agencies over its role in the alleged manipulation of global markets for metals and treasuries. Guys, the regulators are in on it. The federal government is in on it. I feel as though that the federal government is somewhat weak. And I mean, look at what happened with Bernie Madoff. The regulators knew about it, but they didn't do anything. The banks knew about it, but they didn't do anything. The figure was released Tuesday by the Commodity Futures Trading Commission in a statement from Commissioner Dan Barkovitz. The bank also has quietly settled a long-running lawsuit that accused the bank of manipulating precious metals market with spoofing trades. Guys, again, Jamie Dimon knows where all the dead bodies are. This guy is at the tippy top of the elite. I'm not saying that he's in the Illuminati, but this is definitely an Illuminati bank. This is definitely one of the core constituents of those groups, of that core group. JP Morgan Chase is in that core group, and Jamie Dimon, if you know, he's ruthless. I think Jamie Dimon would go in there and he like raid these companies and turn around and make a profit for these companies. But this guy knows everything. Jamie Dimon knows where all the dead bodies are in the financial world. Again, it's not the money that is important, it's the data. So you will find that these hedge funds, they mine data and they try to get top tier information. The information is the difference between making, millions of dollars and billions of dollars and having that insider information. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but yeah, guys, they are manipulating these markets. So let me see if I can get no, I don't have it up here. But yeah, so let me just pull up this real quick. Hopefully you guys are following me. This is your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast. And we are just looking at some stocks. Guys, look at the market close. Look at the market close. The market is starting to consolidate. Really, to me, this is all just noise at this point. This is all just noise. There's no way to find price discovery, as I was saying before. So yeah, JP Morgan Chase manipulating the markets. We have here Trump still being indicted. Trump indictment live updates. Please not guilty to 34 felony counts. Jesus Christ. God help Trump. Yeah, the Democratic Party, they don't like Trump. They're trying everything to do to slow him down. It looks like that these charges are going to be thrown out because the charges are not going to stick. In the last report, I said it was $35,000. That was wrong. It was something like allegedly he gave about $130,000 of funds from the campaign. That's what the Democrats are accusing him of and indicting him on. And they have 34 felony charges on him. But the Democratic Party is corrupt. And oh yeah, I wanted to get something on Ted Cruz on that. But moving right along. See what we're going to get in today. Yeah, I said this in the last podcast. So, guys, this is so crazy. How can JP Morgan, in one instance, be fined $920 million and on the same hand come on and talk about the economy? I mean, it's just complete disassociation, is a complete cognitive dissonance, as they say. But not JP Morgan, but yes, he works for JP Morgan. But Jamie Dimon says the banking crisis is not over and will cause repercussions for years, guys, for years. for years. Yeah, so I went over this in the last podcast. Yeah. So JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon warns banking crisis will be felt for years. Guys, Egon von Grers has already told us that there's going to be major defaults for the next 10 years as a part of those derivatives collapsing. And as a result of those derivatives collapsing, the banks will not be able to extend credit. So how are they going to pay out the welfare benefits? How are they going to be able to pay out the pension benefits to government workers? How are they going to be able to pay out cops? Because they pay them out through credit. And so we're going to be seeing a lot of volatility with that. Um, yes, so this was interesting right here. Woodlawn McDonald's closes due to gunfire, crime, and vandalism. Guys, as the prices go up, as inflation goes up, and inflation is a result of the Fed expanding credit, ballooning the debt. As the debt expands and they do QE, it causes the price of everything to go up. But there is a correlation between prices going up and crime. So as the price of consumer goods go up, we're going to see more crime. And well, shit's really bad when McDonald's is closing the stores. Yeah, the Woodline McDonald's closes on March 31st after more than 40 years in operation because of continuing problems with crime and vandalism. It's because of daily vandalism, Moore told the city council during Tuesday's meeting. In an interview after the meeting, Moore said he had been in contact with franchise owner who told him the persistent crime and vandalism became too expensive to deal with. Guys, we're going to be seeing a lot of this in a lot of businesses. We're going to see exactly the moral fabric of society unwind, and then we're going to find out what human beings are really like. When we have law and order, yes, the law and order imposes order on the society, but as that breaks down, as the money becomes worthless and as credit is no longer able to be extended, we're going to see that actually human beings can be very, very savage, and if this is happening to McDonald's, then this is happening to other small businesses or happening to businesses in general. But I digress. Yeah, so Moore said the franchise ownership had great improvements to the businesses taken over several years ago. They're great operators, Moore said. But listen, guys, so for the last 40 years, we've been in a bull market. They said that over the last 40 years, a monkey could have picked any stock, and that the stock market would have went up on the basis of that 40 years. So it's been a 40-year bull run, and I would like to think of it as like ever since my mom has been working, that the market, yeah, it has some dips that went down, but for the most part, every year it went up 7%. And but now we're in a completely different ball game. None of that applies anymore. I don't know, once everything collapses, how are these day traders going to be making money if the internet goes down, or if the power goes down? How are they going to be able to do anything? And that's why we see people rushing to gold and silver. However, as much as I like the ideal of gold and silver, it's not the end all be all. The next trade is going to be, guys, follow me on this. If you like this, please like and subscribe. Guys, the next trade is going to be, okay, so in the last podcast, I was explaining that the institutional investors, the big money investors are already a year ahead of everybody. They're already a year ahead. So they already bought their gold. Of course, they're going to dollar cost average into the gold and buy up as much gold as they can until they can't buy it anymore, or until the bullion dealers don't want dollars anymore. Remember, there's only 3 cents to the dollar. And in the coming years, that's going to go to zero. That's why we have all these countries de-dollarizing. But yeah, so let's continue on. Hopefully I'm making sense here. But yeah, so I digress big time. Oh, I thought this was really interesting here with guys. I am truly, look at this, is Credit Suisse. I am truly sorry. Chairman pleads with angry shareholders at annual meeting. Shareholders took to the stage at Credit Suisse's annual general meeting Tuesday to demand answers and accountability over its controversial takeover by UBS, another bank in Switzerland. Guys, they're running everything from Switzerland. The power elite are running everything from Switzerland. Swiss authorities brokered an emergency rescue of the stricken bank by its larger domestic rival for just 3 billion Swiss francs over the course of a weekend in late March. Shareholders began arriving at the meeting in droves on Tuesday morning, and a police presence was established near the venue. Guys, this was predicted already. The social unrest was already predicted, and this is the beginning of it. Guys, there's a core group of elite people that are controlling everything, and they want to make the world in their image. And if it was up to them, they all have us microchip, barcoded, in concentration camps, eating the bugs, just making life miserable on planet Earth, I believe. And there's that core group of people here on planet Earth. There's the 13 Illuminati families above them, and then there could possibly be another group that's above the 13 Illuminati families that they could be. And again, I'm speculating what I'm saying is, but this is what my research has shown me, that there's multi-layer, there's multi-tier, that group could be potentially off planet. And we get into this podcast about where the missing money is and what is going on with the UFOs in that instance. But guys, we're going to see more and more people as people wake up, and as people lose their net worth and lose their fortunes, they are going to be knocking on these politicians' doors. I'm not advising that you do that. I'm not saying start protests. I'm not saying that. If anything, we need to be peaceful about it, but we need to be educated and be smart about it. But we're going to see people getting really upset with that power structure, and they're going to be coming after that power structure. However, they're going to be trying to take those people out, but there's another group of people above them that nobody knows about, those 13 Illuminati families and who they really are. We try to uncover that in this podcast. Guys, I thought this was fucking crazy. Tuesday told the chairman told shareholders he was truly sorry for the collapse that led to the bank's controversial takeover by UBS. No, the fuck he wasn't. It is a sad day for you and for us too. I can understand the bitterness, the anger, and the shock of all those who are disappointed, overwhelmed, and affected by the development. Lehman said at bank's annual meeting, the first time its leaders have addressed the public since the rescue. Guys, another thing, guys, what is going on with Kamala Harris? Have you heard about her? Have you seen her in the news? Guys, let me see something. Guys, bear with me. Let me check on something here. What is going on with Kamala Harris? Guys, you don't hear nothing about her. You don't hear nothing about her. Look at this photo. Embraced as the daughter of the nation, Harris visits Zambia. Kamala Harris in Africa. Why the fuck is she in Africa? Okay, guys, I'm not going to get too deep into Kamala Harris, but old girl is being very, very low key, being very, very low key. And I really haven't heard much from her. Guys, I don't know how these politicians can even show their face without there being a mob around them, or there being like just complete outrage over this administration. How are these guys getting any support? What you see, what they're doing. But again, I digress. But yeah, we're getting into Credit Suisse. And yeah, so I threw up a chart on Credit Suisse, and guys, look at the chart on Credit Suisse. If we pull back on here, this is what these guys are angry about. This has been just a free fall on Credit Suisse, guys. Could you blame them? Could you really, really blame them, guys? Okay, so yeah, so we covered the McDonald's vandalism. We covered Credit Suisse. We covered J.P. Morgan and his corruption, and at the same time, he given a quote, a warning about the banks. Yeah, RFK Kennedy Jr. possibly running as president, guys. What is this? Aaron Rodgers hangs with vaccine conspiracy theorists. Guys, he wrote a really good book about what's really going on with the vaccines and Fauci. Guys, you don't hear about Fauci anymore. You don't see Fauci anymore, guys. Looks like this website will not let me go in there. But yeah, Yeah, it could be that he possibly runs. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. outlines potential platform amid speculation of presidential run. Guys, if he runs for president, we definitely need to check out what he is offering and what his policies are. We need to find out all his policies. But I think, guys, it's going to be the difference between him. It's going to be the difference between Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or who has a legacy with his family being in office. It's going to be the difference between Donald Trump and DeSantis and and Biden. But no way is Biden going to win. No way can Biden even go up against these guys and argue. The only thing I can say about Kennedy is that he has a little bit of a voice problem, so that might hinder his chances of becoming president. Okay, I'm not doing the commercials, guys. I'm not doing the commercials, guys. Sorry about that. But yeah, so we covered that. Yeah, so Trump being indicted. We went over that. What is this? Guys, bear with me. Yeah, we went over this guy, Jamie Dimon. We're not going over that. Okay, I got some things from Bill Holter. Kamala Harris, we don't see much about her these days. And how could these politicians even show their face? How could they even show their face? Okay, so yeah, let's go right to it. Right here. Let's go here. Let's cancel out of this. Okay.
It's worth of quantitative tightening, over 2/3 of it erased in the last 2 weeks. And just glancing over them, but they're not talking about what it really means and what it portrays for the future. And I think people who've been watching guys like you for a long time are figuring it out, or have figured it out. And it's just been exciting, but it's also been exhausting to say the least, unlike anything I could really even try and explain.
Well, I guess as we were talking before we started, there was one comp which we'll play a second of here for anyone who was born in the 60s or 70s might be. So
what it feels like. That's really what it feels like. And those snowballs are phone calls and emails. And look, I feel blessed that people trust me enough to send us their emails and these phone calls, but it's a different level of anxiety. You know, people are motivated now out of complete and total fear and concern. And I think a lot of it, and most of it, is 100% justified.
Oh, guys, my bad. Sorry, I didn't preface this. This is Andy Schectman, guys. This is considered the CEO of Gold. He is the CEO of Gold. Check Andy Schectman out, guys.
But the decisions by our administration and by Janet Yellen and the Fed and you know, literally you had 11 months worth of quantitative tightening, over 2/3 of it erased in the last 2 weeks. The things that are happening are mind-boggling, and I think people are waking up to that for the very first time ever in my career. People are really waking up to what precious metals actually represent, and it's not an investment. It's more than just wealth, and it's the one asset that is being accumulated by the central banks.
Guys, and if that, I was saying that, yeah, gold and silver is the trade. We're going to be seeing a massive amount of people liquidating, getting out of their 401ks, getting out of their IRAs. Yeah, they might be going into them now, but is it really safe there if they are depreciating, if you're paying an option premium on your money? They're getting out of the stock markets. They're liquidating into gold and silver. However, the smart money is already bought up their gold and silver. Guys, the next trade, the next thing that's going to be, and a trade doesn't necessarily have to be you're invested into the stock market. A trade can be anything that you put your time and energy into, and put your hard-earned money into, anything you put your equity into can be considered a trade, including relationships, including when you put your money into the bank. But the smart money has already gone into the gold and silver. You know, they're already a year ahead of the curve. And guys, I believe I believe, again, this is not financial advice, but I think that the next thing is going to be desalination of water, like desalting the ocean, right? So water is going to be the next trade. Commodities is going to be the next trade, meaning, growing food, the things that need to be produced in a grocery store are going to be the next trade. Those are going to be the next trade. Yes, you need some gold and silver, but I believe that the elites, the elite people, the smart money, they are way ahead of us. They've already started buying it up. They've been buying it up since the 90s, guys, when gold in 1998, when gold was $300 an ounce, like Igor Van Gres has been buying up gold. These people have been buying up gold when gold was $300 an ounce, and they have totally brainwashed us to not understand what real money is. Again, the only real money is gold and silver. Everything else is credit. And so the next trade is going to be desalination of water, of desalting the ocean and finding a way to make ocean water water. Water itself is going to be the next trade. Commodities, basically growing food, is going to be the next trade. If you can grow something, almost anything, pot, zucchini, anything you can eat, anything that is useful, anything that you can use, that you can grow, you're going to be wealthy. After that trade, the next trade after that is going to have something to do with the destabilization, protecting yourself against destabilization. The trade would be like firearms, weapons, bunkers, not necessarily bunkers, but things that are going to protect you from the volatility of the bastardization of people, people becoming bastardized, or people becoming zombified, the zombification of people. You're going to have to protect yourself from people becoming radicalized and falling into abject poverty. That's part of it. And that looks like what we're going into the future. But long term, these elites, after those trades, the next trade really is privatization of space, and them finding a way to safely get off this planet, or to create the stargates to get to other planets physically, and not interdimensionally, or finding a way to get from here to Mars, because it takes 6 months to get to Mars through the Stargate. So we're going to see that the next trade, or the next, where all the money really is going to go and all the research is going to go, is if they can't get to Mars, it would be living out in outer space. Now, I have a crazy conspiracy theory that says that we don't even come from this planet, that human beings come from outer space. But that's something I don't want to get too deep into. Maybe as time goes on, that we can kind of explore this topic, this exopolitical topic of exactly the germination, the spermatization of human civilization, and how we actually got here. I'm not here to try to debate or to kind of proliferate any kind of thing or anything like that. It's just research that I've done. Really, is looking at where the money is going. And guys, the money is going secretly into the privatization of space. And these elites being able to safely get off the planet and live in like biodomes, live in domes on the planet, where they can grow food and eat food. If you ever saw that movie Elysium, guys, let me pull up the movie Elysium. Again, this is your boy Jay. This is Digital Revolution Podcast, guys. I hope you are following me on this. Guys, check out this movie. I believe that this movie is a big predictive program for the future. This is certainly a predictive program into the future, guys. And they're telling you where the money is going. For us people that are still on Earth, it's going to be trying to grow whatever we can, because it's going to be issues with the food. But if you see here, I don't know if you guys can see this here, but ring world settlements could return our future to its past. So in Elysium, if you guys never seen this movie, but this is essentially what it is. And this is what I've been saying, that guys, this is where the money is going to. This is where the privatization is going to. This is what they are going to try to be building, is this Elysium where they can grow food in this Elysium. All the elites will be in this Elysium, and while everybody else is suffering on planet Earth or having to deal with the instability on planet Earth. I'm not going to go too deep into the technology, but guys, this is where the trade is going, guys. This is where the future is into the Elysium. But again, I digress. But let's go back to Andy.
Not telling, I don't really know what is, simply to say the price is the greatest tool of misdirection. I know both gold and silver have done well lately, but still relative to where they should be. If the COMEX market were allowed to trade freely, we are a fraction of where we ultimately will be. And I say that specifically based upon the positioning of the most sophisticated traders in the world. And they're making a very strong push and a strong effort to position themselves in the metals and run cover by holding down the paper price. And it's worked beautifully for a long time. I think we're getting to the end of that game where the physical demand in this country alone, I think, has the potential to overwhelm the ability to hold down a paper price when such a very small subsection of the public has ever understood what precious metals represent.
Right.
And now
Agree.
with all of these states, as we've talked about before, Idaho and Alaska and Missouri and Wyoming, and Kansas and Mississippi,
legal tender,
and the list goes on, Texas, they're all not only voting to allow silver to be part of the treasury of these states, but to allow it to be legal tender for debts, public and private. It is waking up people who never even thought about it. And when they see the performance, not only of their stocks and their bonds get hit so hard last year, the stupid brain dead monetary policy of the Fed and the crazy decisions by our government, and then to see that to think for a moment that the banks that represent 70% of the small businesses in this country, the small regional banks, are on the chopping block and won't be bailed out unless they're quote unquote systemic enough for members of the FOMC, the FDIC, and Janet Yellen herself to be judge, jury, and executioner. I think people are really very, very scared. In fact, I have a friend who's runs a very large book for Morgan Stanley. He says the amount of money that is pouring into Morgan Stanley is off the charts. People are emptying their bank accounts in these regional banks, which is just going to make these banks.
Guys, you hear what Andy is saying? People are emptying out their bank accounts in regional banks, guys. That is fucking crazy.
Over upside down because they're loaded up with toxic assets. And the crazy thing is those toxic assets were not speculative. They were 10-year treasuries and mortgage-backed securities, which were conservative, until they have to sell them in order to mark them to market to come up with the cash to pay depositor withdrawals. This is the beginning of something very frightening if it continues. And sometimes I wonder if this was intended specifically to drive everyone out of these small banks. But when you realize that they represent nearly 70% of the small businesses, which represent traditionally up to 40% of GDP, this is a scary thing. And I think people for the first time understand that there are very few places to run, and gold and silver, and in particular silver, is the most undervalued asset on the planet with the greatest story ever, upside potential, supply, not only supply above ground, but in the ground, and uses that are expanding. And there's so many reasons that silver is staring people in the face that I think they're beginning to understand what it really represents, what you and I have been talking about for so long, beating our heads on the table saying, why don't people see this? Why is it such just a small group of people who get this? And us tinfoil hat wearing silver and gold lovers, I think, we're well ahead of the crowd and well ahead of what ultimately I think will be a massive shift out of traditional assets and into the only place.
Exactly what I was saying, guys. These guys have been buying up gold and silver since the early 90s when gold was $300 an ounce. Like, you can imagine how much gold they have accumulated. They've been buying a hand over fist since then, and the price is now somewhere around $2,000 an ounce. Guys, anything below $40,000 an ounce is considered cheap.
My mind, where you can safely
mind-blowing
seek refuge, and that is gold and silver. And at the same time, with silver, it represents a hell of an investment opportunity. And even though I sell it as wealth, I think there are very few things that offer the potential that silver does right now.
Well, along those lines, some news that we had out, this was just perhaps prior to last weekend. Here's from the Scottsdale Mint, mentioning that Royal Canadian Mint just reported to dealers that they made a huge error and over-promised points to dealers. Their estimates for deliveries got pushed way out. Many dealer pre-sale coins based on estimates from the government mint will now have to either refund or ask their customers to wait months for coins. And I know you mentioned you were also hearing something similar from the Austrian Mint. What could you say there about the supply of some of the sovereign coins?
Those are both true statements. The Austrian Mint went on allocation last week, and
Okay, so yeah, guys, you can check out this interview with Andy Schectman at Arcadia Economics. Guys, another great, guys, I don't know why the YouTube does this, but like I've been subscribed to Arcadia Economics forever, but for some reason they will just unsubscribe you. For some reason, they will just unsubscribe you. But yeah, guys, check out that interview with Andy Schectman. We're just doing a small review here of it. But yeah, Andy Schectman is a wealth of information. He is considered the CEO of gold. Okay, so we got Bill Holter there. Oh. Let me see. Let's see if I can go to Gerald real quick. Okay, real quick with Gerald. Let's just do a little review with Gerald Celente.
Under the bush.
Guys, Gerald Celente is one of the best. I've been fucking with Gerald for the longest. He is one of the best trends forecasters, guys. We're just gonna do a very he did an introduction. We're just gonna go over the introduction real quick.
Enough is enough. China making a deal with Saudi Arabia. One after another, Russia and China. The BRICS, they've had enough of the bucks. The BRICS are breaking from the bucks. So we'll get into that deeper. Let's look at the markets today. The markets are down almost 200 points. And the big news in the morning was, you ready for this? Jamie Dimon, that's the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, that's been convicted of 5 felonies, including rigging the precious metals markets that they did for many years.
Crazy, right?
Says the banking crisis is not over and will cause repercussions for years to come. No shit, blow me away. Well, now it's official. It's coming from the top bankster. And no one's talking about what we're talking about. And that is one of you.
No one's talking about. Oh my God, I love this guy. He's got a potty mouth too.
Top trends for 2023 that we had forecast 3 years ago and said this is the year it's going to become the reality. Office building bust. You have an office occupancy rate of, on average, about 50% in the 10 top states in the United States.
Yeah.
So now people don't want to commute back and forth because in the COVID war, they said, I'm not doing this anymore. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to travel an hour and a half, a shitty ride or a train, whatever, driving, costs money to park, going to go back. I hate this. I'm not doing it anymore. And I'm sitting in a shitty cubicle anyway. So now they're going back 2 or 3 days a week. And now the economy's going down. That's right. Oh, the numbers came in today on the job openings. Yep. They tumbled below 10 million. 10 million. This is the worst number in 2 years. So you go back 2 years ago, the COVID war is being fought. Stay home. Don't go out. COVID's going to get you. COVID's going to get you. So jobs weren't being created. That's where we're at. So the economy is going down. This is serious. The economy is going down, and Jamie Dimon now is warning that it's going to get worse. And going back to the office building bust that nobody's talking about, with the economy going down, and you are in business and you have many office floors, you're not going to need all of them, and you need to save money, so stay home. So there's going to be defaults like we've never seen before, and we're the only ones that are highlighting this week after week, month after month, year after year. And by the way, I've just talked about what's going on. Gold prices today. Gold prices went up almost $40 an ounce. We told you this was going to happen. Now let's put it back together. Oh, the job numbers stunk, which we said they were a fraud back in January when they were so high. And now the real ones are coming out because we told you about all the temporary workers that were being laid off. That means that they're going to raise interest rates when they meet again in early May. And they may not. And the guess is on the street, they're going to raise them 25 basis points. And after that, no more raises and then start lowering them. Here's the bottom line. The lower interest rates go, the weaker the dollar gets. Death of the dollar. It's your cover of the Trends Journal. The lower interest rates go, the weaker the dollar becomes, and the dollar is on its deathbed now.
Guys, the death of the dollar. Again, like I was saying, what is all this stock market? What are all these valuations based off of? If the dollar is dying, then what is all this stocks valuation? It's all just smoke and mirrors, guys. What Gerald Celente is saying, and what a lot of people are saying, and what we're seeing with the BRICS de-dollarizing, is that the death of the dollar is going to have a lot of repercussions and a lot of implications, particularly with the social cohesion and society breaking down. But let's finish up with Gerald, and we're not going to do the whole interview.
It's going to be buried because the Saudis are going to do, the OPEC Plus are going to do away with the petrodollar. Again, oil prices went up. They spiked yesterday over 6% because Saudi Arabia and OPEC Plus said, hey, listen, oil prices are going down. We're cutting back on supply. It's a thing about supply and demand, that we got too much supply out there and not enough demand. And now they're dealing more with China. So they're going to be doing away with that. So now going back to the big story of what we're giving you, all of these facts and information, let's look at the Cartoon News Network and what all the mainstream media is talking about. Trump pleads not guilty to 34 felony counts. That's it. That's it. I could give a fuck about his felony counts or give a fuck about Trump. Because what does that have to do with oil prices, gold prices, office building prices,
Right.
real estate?
Right.
What does it have to do with inflation? Again, it's not inflation, it's dragflation we're going into. They keep repeating this crap that we're going to have stagflation. No, it won't be stagnant. The economy is going to drag down and inflation is going to keep going up. And you just saw what just happened with the oil prices. And now you're looking at Brent crude at about $85 per barrel. Now let's go to Europe.
Yeah, guys, I'm not going to do the full interview, but yeah, just to recap what Gerald Celente is saying, lower interest rates is going to weaken the dollar. Inflation is going to go up. And that's very similar to what a lot of these top economists are saying, or trend forecasters and cyclists. Manner said the same thing, that interest rates will be down temporarily, short term, but long term we'll be dealing with hyperinflation. So, guys, that's not good at all. That has huge social geopolitical repercussions. A weak dollar is going to zero. Stock markets collapsing on the basis of the dollar weakening, because what is the valuation of the total valuation of the stock market in dollars? If it's a zero, that means the whole stock market is zero, is going to go to zero. Essentially, because a billion or a quadrillion times zero is zero, guys. Inflation going up again. We've been talking about it here. It's not really talked about enough with the correlation between inflation and crime. just like how we show how that McDonald's had to close down a store due to vandalism. Again, it's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast. Please like and subscribe. And we're going to end it on another OG. I don't know if yes, we love Gerald Celente. Guys, please check out Gerald Celente. Again, I don't know why they do that, but I've been subscribed to him. YouTube unsubscribe. YouTube be unsubscribing people. Anyways. Okay, really quickly, let's end it on Bill Holter. My absolute favorite. Guys, Bill Holter, Gerald Celente, these are the OGs.
Going to $100,000 an ounce or silver to $10,000 an ounce or like that. I'm not talking about in dollars. I'm talking about what will an ounce of gold purchase? Will it purchase what it does today, $1,000 worth of goods? Will it purchase a car? Will it purchase some acreage of land? That's where the true clearing price is going to be decided, is going to be between individuals. And anybody who has the mindset of, well, how am I going to get rid of gold? Forget about it, because you're thinking about it completely wrong, because the rest of the world is going to be wondering, how do I get gold? And you already have it. So you're going to have people banging your door down, hopefully not literally, but people are going to be coming to you wanting to get your gold for goods, for services, what have you. So it's to think or to worry about how am I going to turn it back into dollars or currency. It's dumb think.
You've been a strong advocate in the past of people owning gold or silver coins of the realm, as you say, from the country that they live in, issued by the mint of the country that they live in. What's your thinking about that currently? Has it evolved in any way? If someone holds, for example, gold bars or silver rounds or something like that, do you feel that they should make their move while they still can to get into government-issued coins of the country that they live in?
Yeah, I've been talking about this for, 6 or 7 years. And let me ask you, you're a precious metals broker. If the system goes down and somebody comes to you with a gold bar, do you have the ability to test it?
Not personally.
So would you accept it?
Probably not.
Would you likely to accept a gold eagle or a silver eagle versus a gold bar or a silver bar?
Yeah, bars in particular are probably the worst case on the other end of the spectrum from that standpoint, because they're so low detail of the engraving, that sort of thing, and especially gold bars potentially can be fraudulently manufactured, that sort of thing. If somebody's trying to make a forgery, it's a lot easier to make a forgery of a bar.
Exactly, that's my point. And as far as holding U.S. coin, what has happened as far as the premium, meaning the most sought after, gold eagles, silver eagles? I mean, look at what some of the discount dealers are doing now. I mean, I looked on APMEX just to see what they're doing. I think they're $14 over spot on junk. And by the way, we've not had any junk for almost 2 weeks. It's gone. So if you own junk, you have premium coin. Look at the premium on eagles at APMEX, $15, $16, $17. That's, in my opinion, way too high, but it's still a pretty high premium, $11, $12, whatever. And then in the gold area, gold eagles are what, 7-8% over spot versus other foreign sovereigns that are 2%. But look at the pre-1933 gold. I don't know if you've looked at it in the last maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I mean, you're looking at MS63 libs now over $2,500. You're looking at MS63 Saints, nearly $2,500. And the bids are strong there. And you're looking at eagles at what, 20, 2120, 2130, something like that. So the premium finally is starting to move, and understand that the pre-33 coins and the junk or 1964 and earlier dimes, quarters, and halves, they haven't minted those in almost 60 years for the junk and 100 years for the pre-33 gold. They are the canaries in the coal mine. And the fact that you can't find junk anywhere, I challenge anybody to go out and find 10 or 20 bags of junk. Can't do it. It's all gone. And so that's for silver. And in gold, all of a sudden, just in the last 3 or 4 weeks, the premiums on the pre-1933 gold are starting to skyrocket. Those tell you that the demand is overwhelming the supply because there is no new supply of that.
Yeah, and when people are trying to put an entire nest egg, they're whether they've sold their property, sold a home, sold a ranch, whether they've liquidated a 401k or got a pension buyout or something like that. Some people have big nest eggs that they're trying to put into metals. Do you see a layered strategy there where they at least make sure they have a sufficient supply of the sovereign minted coins, as you mentioned, and they can still augment that with less expensive, from other countries, that sort of thing, if they really want to go big on ounces, but don't want to keep paying up that high premium on all of their nest egg?
What will you do
Okay,
tomorrow
guys,
if you
but
can't?
yeah, so I'm not gonna go over the whole interview. Hopefully you guys have stayed with me this far. Again, these markets are all heavily manipulated, heavily rigged. Not to say that you can't make money off of it, but it's just fiat. You're just making fiat currency. And again, like I said in the last podcast, a lot of these day traders, they're making short-term gains and they're rolling those short-term gains into precious metals and gold and silver. But precious metals is not the end all be all. Of course, I'm a big proponent of Bill Holter. I'm a big, supporter of Gerald Celente. But the only thing I have to say about gold and silver is that, yes, it's great. You need it. But the Chinese say you can't eat it, right? It's not rice. Nobody knows how gold and silver will perform because you're going to have sort of 3 asset classes, right? You're going to have gold, silver, and Bitcoin as being the legal tender in the not too foreseeable future when that old system collapses. However, nobody knows how any asset class will really perform under extreme volatility. And when I mean extreme volatility, and not to scare anybody, but let's just say hypothetically, there's a nuclear bomb. Are you going to want gold and silver? I don't know. How is gold and silver going to perform under that kind of extremity? Nobody knows how these asset classes will really perform under a volatile, very volatile world. It seems like in that kind of a volatile market, what I just proposed, the ideal of it would be food, water, shelter, barterability. Well, mostly it would be food and water and shelter and a way to protect yourself from the crazy masses or whatever. So nobody really knows out into the future how gold will actually perform, how gold and silver will actually perform. The institutional investors don't like it because they just say that it just sits there. It just sits there. It's a relic. It doesn't produce a dividend. It doesn't produce cash flow. And guess what? These rich people, they love a cash flow. These banks, they love cash flow. These hedge funds, they love cash flow. But guess what? If the dollar is going to zero, guys, then what cash flow? Again, what we learned from Bill Holter and people like Bill Holter and Andy Schectman is that in the future, your net worth will not be predicated on dollars and the smoke and mirror that you see on the screen. It will not be predicated on you going into your bank account. You might have $1 million, but your net worth will not be predicated on that. That is sort of like smoke and mirrors, if you will. Your net worth will be valued in ounces. How many ounces you have? How much land do you have? What tangible asset do you have? So we're moving. So that old Illuminati system is dying of that central bank system. And they want to propose a CBDC as a way to combat all the volatility, essentially, as prices go up and the average consumer gets priced out of the market. The Fed is going to come in there and just give free digital money. Eventually, pretty soon, guys, the next step of this is you won't be able to get cash out of the bank. Once the gold bullion dealers, or once the bullion dealers no longer want dollars for gold, guys, that is going to be a huge indicator. That might be that you have to go into your bunker. You're going to have to go into your plan B. You're going to have to go to somewhere safe. You're going to have to get out of the densely populated areas, because why would you go to work if you can't exchange your worthless pieces of paper, if you can't exchange your hard labor, which you trade for dollars, to trade those dollars in for something of value that can hold its value? The very definition of money is that, one of the definitions of money is that it should hold its value. Guys, it's your boy Jay. This is the Digital Revolution Podcast. Hopefully you guys stayed with me. If you like the information that I have in this podcast, please like and subscribe. I hope you guys stay blessed, and I'll see you in the next podcast.